Welcome to the Scratch Golfer's Mindset Podcast, the show committed to helping you dismantle the destructive mindset programs keeping you stuck in the proverbial bunker of poor performance so you can get out of your own way and play to your potential. My name is Paul Salter. I'm a high-performance hypnotherapist and mindset coach with 16 years of experience helping thousands of individuals like you get unstuck. This podcast features a collection of solo episodes, conversations with scratch and plus handicap golfers, and master classes with top experts in the performance psychology space. The one goal? To help you make playing to your potential a habit. Do you understand what it really means to have a quiet mind before pulling the trigger to initiate your backswing? Do you understand the rules of the bank, what they are, and how violating them leads to inconsistent swing patterns and inconsistent performance? Do you understand the truth about consistency and how to stop recreating what you already own? Yeah, I don't really think so, because I certainly did it. But today's guest is going to break it down and feed us what he inevitably describes a golf smoothie of wholeness to help us get out of swing prison, stop violating the rule bank so we can create an effective, repeatable swing with ease. Today's guest is Steven Yellin, creator of the Fluid Motion Factor and one of the leading voices in understanding the neuroscience in performance in golf. He is also the author of Simplicity, a phenomenal book that details his Fluid Motion Factor program, which, to be candid, I think I did a pretty damn good job extracting as much of the wisdom and secrets in that book as I possibly could in roughly a 50-minute conversation. You're going to love this episode. You're going to love learning from Steven. So without further ado, help me welcome Steven Yellin to the show. Hey, fellow golfer. Moments after hitting record on that intro, it came to my realization that unfortunately the first couple of minutes of audio could not be salvaged from my conversation with Steven. We were having a bit of internet difficulty, to say the least. So as soon as I stop talking, it's going to feel like you are thrust into the middle of the conversation. Don't worry, the remaining 45 minutes or so is absolute gold. I've included all of the show notes, or all the information you need in the show notes below to learn more about Steven, to purchase his book, and further connect with him. This time, I can safely say, literally, let's dive right in. Conditions prior to initiating a swing. Can you help our listeners understand what it is you mean by that? And then, of course, how we can get into that state?
So, it's a great question. It's a very fundamental question that actually every golfer should understand and know. So, and it's quite simple. To produce emotion, any motion, you have to generate a signal, an intention in the brain physiology, or the club's not going to move. Now, there are two parts of the brain physiology that are very interesting in producing motion. One is the prefrontal cortex, which is the front of the frontal part of the brain. It oversees all processes in the brain. It's also, and that's why it's called the CEO of the brain. So when you're thinking, it's the PFC during a swing, it's the PFC that goes online that's doing the thinking. The other part of the brain physiology that's very important is the motor system. Now, when someone creates a fluid motion, during that 1.5 seconds it takes to generate a golf swing, that electric signal bypasses the prefrontal cortex, which means the intellect goes offline. The intellect goes offline, and it goes directly to the motor system, and it's the motor system which communicates with the body to produce motion. The problem occurs, and it's a big problem, and we saw it on Monday in the playoff at the Players' Championship, is when the PFC goes online, and then it delays the signal moving to the motor system ever so slightly. And then in the middle of the motion, the body is looking for direction because all direction from the body comes from the mind. And there's too many processes going on in the brain physiology. And that's when the core, bulkier muscles dominate the motion and the club does not get synced. So this good process where the signal is going directly to the motor system and the PFC is going offline, I just labeled as the fluid motion factor, and that's the name of my program.
Such a phenomenal and easy to understand example. I appreciate that. And I'm curious, we're aware now of kind of how this process works. We're well aware of how essential it is to get to a place where we have a quiet mind free of interference. How do we go about actually putting that into practice so that we can constantly have a quiet CEO that allows the body to take over and do what it knows how to do?
Okay, this is a very subtle space that you're trying to set up.
Mhm.
And my program, my full program, takes 2 full days to go through the process. But I'll give you something that is very basic and something very fundamental that people can try right away. So when you're on the golf course and you are setting up your shot and you're behind the ball, you take into consideration all the elements of the shot, the lie, the wind, the temperature, what club you want to hit, how you want to hit it. And have you ever made a smoothie? Of course, everyone's made a smoothie, okay? They take some blueberries, strawberries, bananas, and yogurt, and they put it in a blender, and they hit the blend button. Now, after they hit the blend button, if you can see a chunk of banana, you don't have a smoothie. You have to hit it again. So we're going to make a golf smoothie. We're going to put all these elements that I just talked about, lie, wind, temperature, what kind of club you want to hit, swing thoughts, shape, whatever. Okay, you would put that in a golf blender. Now, the brain physiology was designed to create fluid motion when it experiences wholeness. Wholeness is a very abstract term, and what I'm doing right now is I am giving a very concrete example of what wholeness is. So we put all these elements into a golf blender, right? And right before we're about to pull the trigger, we hit the blend button on our golf smoothie. And this is happening in microseconds. And after we hit that blend button, if there's one element of our golf smoothie that is pulsating, don't hit it left, don't hit it right, don't hit it far, don't hit it long, don't hit it short, get the club in this position, you do not have a threshold level of wholeness. Now, if you do not have a threshold level of wholeness before you initiate the motion, and the brain physiology has to experience a threshold level of wholeness during the motion, what do you think your chances are of experiencing that threshold level of wholeness during the motion? There's a word for that if you do not have a threshold level of wholeness. It's called blackjack. You're playing blackjack. You don't know really what's going to happen because you do not have enough intelligence flowing from the mind to the body. Then something goes wrong in the swing. Now, if you do not have a threshold level of wholeness during the swing, so the body is not getting enough direction from the mind, anything can happen. You could be too steep. You can be too shallow. You could take it too far inside, too far outside. You cannot set your hands correctly. You cannot close the club face. You cannot have good balance, tempo, positions. Anything can happen. And the reason why most golfers really don't get better is they go to the byproduct of the problem and not the source of the problem. The byproduct of the problem, when you don't have a high threshold level of wholeness, is something is going to happen during the swing. But it's not the swing's fault. Why are you blaming the body when it's processes in the brain physiology that control it?
I wish, and I will do this. I will clip that last sentence and just put it on repeat. That's so well said. That entire last couple of minutes is such a fundamental breakdown that I really hope for everybody listening, you go back and listen to that section 2 or 3 times. There's so much gold there. And I keep coming back to a couple words, Steve, and I'm going to look for your guidance and perhaps update or correction even. But what's standing out to me is I'm understanding the physiological processes that need to take place. That all makes sense to me. I keep coming to the words focus, presence, interference. I'm kind of like mental clutter, baggage, distraction. So you mentioned all of the ingredients in this golf smoothie. How do we ensure we continue to filter in and out the appropriate, most effective ingredient?
So golfers need to understand, actually all athletes need to understand. And this was explained to me by a neuroscientist about 20 years ago who worked with two Olympic teams, Norway and Denmark, the two top winter Olympic teams in the world. And he said, Steven, once you've grooved a motion, any motion, that motion can't break down. What breaks down is the ability to access what you already own. Now, the ramifications of this will eventually change how golf is taught and how golf is played. Once you have grooved a motion, and golfers know whether they have a groove motion, you know whether you have a groove motion or not. It may not be as grooved as Rory or JJ or any of these guys, okay, but it's grooved. So this is like money in the bank. I'm sort of laying a foundation to answer your question. Mm-hmm. This is like money in the bank. Let's say you want to save $10,000. So you go to the bank, you open up an account, you start putting your money in, $100, $200. Finally, you have your $10,000. Now, you go to the bank on Tuesday, your money is there. You go to the bank 2 years from now, your money is there. You go to the bank 5 years from now, your money hasn't gone anywhere. Muscle memory or motion memory, if you want to label it like that, is exactly that. Once you've reached a point where you have your $10,000, you do not have to recreate the wheel on every shot. All you have to do is to learn. This is a second set that everyone needs to learn, a second set of a program in golf instruction of how to access what you already own. Now, I'll give you an example. Let's say a very good golfer is going to play in a big tournament. And he goes to the range before his tee-off time. He drops a bucket of balls. He works through his bag. He gets to his driver. He hits 10 or 12. I'll take any one of those drives today, right? 23 minutes later, he tees it up at the first tee. He looks at let's say the shape of a shot is a little baby draw. He looks at the fairway. Well, it's not a right to left hole. It's a left to right hole. Oh, jeez. He's playing with three other guys who already hit, and he can't believe how far they hit with such minimal effort. Oh, jeez. He played this tournament last year, and he doubled the first hole. And, of course, everyone wants to do well on their opening tee shot. So in the middle of his swing, in the transition, the moment of truth where you're changing directions to actually hit the ball, he goes to the teller at the muscle memory bank, and he says, look, I just want to withdraw one swing that I had 10 or 12 swings ago. I just want to withdraw one of those, and I'll be happy. And, of course, this is happening in microseconds. And the teller says, oh, Mr. Salter, okay, we are so delighted you're playing in this tournament, but you have violated the rules of the bank. So you don't have access to your $10,000 or one of those 13 or 20 or 15 really good drives you hit 23 minutes ago. You only have access to $2,900. So you don't hit what you hit 23 minutes ago. You pop some pathetic thing up that's 35 yards in back of the shortest driver. Meanwhile, if you were to turn around and tee a ball into the parking lot where there's no fairway, there's no tournament, how many times do you think you would not put a good move on that ball? How about zero? So if the swing is broke when if the swing is broke when you're looking at the fairway, and the swing is not broke when you're not looking at the fairway, the swing is not broke. It's not broke. You have violated the rules of the bank. So you cannot access one of those 10 or 12 really good swings. Now, the rules of the bank are very simple. They're not Steven Yellin's rules, okay? Steven may be clever. He's not the creator. They're nature's rules. You have shut down, more or less, the flow of intelligence from the mind and the body. Now, I'm going to go back to answer your question. I wanted to set a foundation. Mm-hmm. So what do you do? What do you think about? What do you put in your blender? Well, I guarantee you what 90% of your listeners are putting in their blender is absolutely not necessary. I want to use a word. It starts with a T. Let me think if I'm going to use it. Okay, I'll use it. Toxic. What you're doing is you're trying to recreate something you already own. You're trying to recreate something you already own. And you don't know what the rules of the bank are. You don't know, and I'm talking about the pros. I'm not just talking about your average golfer. You do not know what situation you have to set up in that little brain physiology of yours so the motor system can seamlessly communicate with the body to produce a fluid golf swing. So because of that, you put in all these extra ingredients. Oh, I got to do this. I got to do this. No, you don't. Okay, you don't.
That is pure gold. And for those of you just listening, not watching, Steven is animated. He is so passionate about this. I love these analogies, Steven, because they're so relatable. They connect us to another part of our life we readily understand, going to the bank, making a smoothie, which gives us an ease of accessing, deepening our understanding of how it applies to us on the golf course. With that said, we'll come back to that example you use. We're standing over the first tee in that tournament. The three players in our pairing have just hit beautiful drives incredibly far. What do we need to begin doing? Or perhaps, Stephen, the better question is not do to allow that fluid motion to occur the way it's supposed to and designed to.
You want me to give away all my secrets? Is that it?
I mean,
people are not paying me anything. Okay, they're not. I'm not getting. There's nothing. Okay, of course I'll do it. Okay, because when I sit in my Lexus, I feel very comfortable in talking. It's like, you'll pardon the studio that I'm in, but I'm at the golf course. Okay, so here's the deal. It's quite a deal, Paul. The quality of the space before you initiate the motion will more or less determine the quality of the motion. I'll say that again. The quality of the space before you initiate the motion, the swing, will more or less determine the quality of the motion. Because once you pull that trigger, you ever hear of a singer called Carole King? Mm-hmm. You know Carole King? Are you too young? Or you
know
remember?
Carole King. I might be young.
Okay. What's that?
I said I may be young, but I do know Carole King.
So she has a song called It's Too Late, Baby. Okay? It's too late, baby. We really did try to make it. Something inside has died, and I no longer can fake it. So once you pull that trigger, you're done. You cannot micromanage that, something going up to 100 or 110 miles an hour. But what you have complete control over is the quality of the space before you initiate the motion. What you have complete control over is the quality of the space as you're walking into the shot. Now, here's a logical question and a legitimate question. How do you know you have a threshold level of wholeness before you initiate the motion? Is there some way you can gauge it? You can measure it. You can monitor it. Because if you don't have that high quality of space before you initiate the motion, you are doing yourself a tremendous disservice because you have 100% control over that. So yes, there is, Paul. Fortunately, there is something you can do as a barometer, okay, as a litmus test to see whether you have a high threshold level of wholeness. And this is what it is. Right before you pull the trigger, you have to do this on the range. Go through your whole pre-shot routine like you're on the course, but do this on the range. Mm-hmm. And right before you pull the trigger, you drop the club and you stand up. And you feel like you're sitting in your living room. And you ask yourself, when I dropped the club and stood up, did my shoulders, that's the key. Did my shoulders feel the same way they felt when I had the club in my hand and I was about to initiate the swing? Everyone will say, no, I feel more relaxed now, right? Well, guess what? When you had the club in your hand, you were not ready to initiate the swing because you did not have a threshold level of wholeness. So what you have to do is you have to practice this. You're over the ball on the range. You're about to hit the club, hit the shot, and you drop the club and you stand up and you do that as many times as you need to do it. Could be 5, 10, 15, until you feel that when you stood up and you felt like you were in your living room, that you felt the same way as when the club was in your hand and you were about to pull the trigger. Now you're in a position to initiate the swing.
Here, deep relaxation, physical relaxation in this sense. Is that what we're getting at here? And having a tangible physical barometer of testing that, giving it experientiality?
100%. Because what happens in the final analysis, it's the experience of time that controls the muscles. Time controls the muscles. When you're over anticipating an action that has not yet occurred, which most people do when they're over the ball, then you distort time. And when time is distorted, the flow of intelligence is also distorted between the mind and the body. So how do you know if time is distorted? Well, it shows up in your shoulders. Because when you're if you're experiencing time normally over the ball, your shoulders would feel the same way as when you're just standing, in your living.
Phenomenal. I have so many questions about that, but let me start here. Why
Yeah.
is the reason we're fixated on the shoulders? Because generally speaking, and you can always tell me I'm wrong and educate me, most people will carry that degree of tension based on the posture required for a golf swing in their shoulders. There's that scrunching up that shows tension or tightness, energy is present.
Ultimately, what it shows, you're distorting time, and it shows up in a physical phenomena in the body. You are correct.
Fascinating.
Now, if it shows up in a physical part of your body, it doesn't start in the body; it starts in the mind. Okay, you're already over anticipating, and then you pull the trigger. You're at the blackjack table at the Bellagio. Okay, you don't know what card.
It's incredible because now my mind goes to, and this is beyond the scope of our conversation, but it's worth mentioning. Like, you bring in elements of stress, you bring in elements of alcohol, other recreational drugs players use to have a good time on the golf course. And time distortion is completely unique and blown up from its normal entity self for each individual, and how that then begins to have the impact on the round, the swing, etc. Like, fascinating.
No, actually, people will probably play better drunk than sober because the PFC goes offline.
Correct.
It doesn't know what the heck happened. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Now, here's the thing with the playoff. Okay, I watched the playoffs until I saw him, put that ball in the water. Then I said, "Oh, no fun here. It's all over." I guarantee you, if JJ Spawn dropped that club before he pulled the trigger on 17 and stood up, there would be a big contrast between how his shoulders felt when he stood up versus how he felt when he was about to pull the trigger. You do that with Rory, and there'd be very little, if any, contrast. And the story.
Let me ask you this. Why? And I think there's some obvious reasons, but I want to get your take. Why is there a contrast between JJ and Rory in that scenario?
Experience, resume, ramifications of winning the players, and fear. Fear is the killer in a golf swing. All right, fear, and this is on a very subtle level. It's a whole other topic, which I cover in my book. Are you going to buy my book, Paul? You going to buy my book?
I've already got you.
Did you buy it?
Oh yeah, it's on the way. It'll be here today.
Okay. So what happens is that it's so subtle. And I'm not saying this is what happened in his mind. I'm saying these are the possibilities that could have happened. Am I really good enough to win this tournament? Do I deserve it? Am I worthy? Am I playing for myself? Do I have fear of success that if I win this tournament, people are going to expect me to play well all the time, and if I don't, I'll disappoint them? So all these subtle layers and levels, and these are the reasons why you're violating the rules of the bank. Okay, so you can't access it. So I don't know. I mean, he's a very talented player. I think if he gets in that situation again, he'll do much better. How many times has Rory been in that situation? Now, let me talk a little bit about my good friend Rory. Okay, well, it's not really my good friend. I'm just saying everyone loves the guy.
Let's go with it.
They love the guy, right? Well, let's go with it. There have been 40 majors in 10 years that Rory has not won. He hasn't won one. What's going on? Is he not talented enough? Of course not. You know how talented he is. Does he not want it enough? No, of course he wants it enough. Does he lack anything in his game? No, he's got every shot. Why has Rory not won at least 1 out of 40? I'm going to tell you exactly why. First of all, from a general standpoint, he doesn't have enough intelligence flowing into the body during the swing. End of story. He's violating the rules of the bank. And the teller says, "Oh, Rory, we're so sorry. You just can't access all of that talent, in this tournament." So there's something that I call the DNA goal in a sport. The DNA goal is the embedded goal in a sport. You never have to remind yourself, okay? For instance, if someone's about to shoot a basketball, you never have to remind them that it would be a good idea if the ball went in the basket. Someone's serving in tennis, you never have to remind them that it would be a good idea if the ball went in the service box. So you're playing in a major championship and you're trying to complete your Grand Slam, right? Just hasn't won the Masters. And does anyone have to remind Rory that it would be a good idea if he played well and he won the Masters? No. But what happens, and it's the killer, is when you make a DNA goal your surface goal. I have to play well here. I have to hit a good shot. I have to score well. Now, this leads into another area. You don't mind if I take it to another area, Paul, do you? Mm-hmm. This is the mind-body connection. You have to understand the mind-body connection, or you'll never really understand a golf swing or any athletic motion. The mind is like an ocean. You've got surface active levels of the ocean and surface active levels of the mind. But the mind has the ability to experience deeper levels of its own nature. It has the ability to experience deeper levels of silence, quietness, of wholeness, of abstraction, right? Now, the body has the same scheme. You've got the bulkier core level of the muscles, which are important for emotion, but if they dominate, you're not going anywhere. And then the body, it's a beautiful thing, has deeper levels of intelligence. It's got the ability to fire the fast twitch muscles, which generates more club head speed with less effort. It's got the ability to self-correct emotion, which means if you're at the top of the swing, the body can self-correct it. It's through the cerebellum. And it's got the ability to smooth out emotion. Freddie Couples or Ernie Els or this Jake Knapp, who just looks like Canadian maple syrup. Okay? Now, here's the secret sauce. You have to, if you don't understand this, you're lost. You're going to be in swing prison forever. And most golfers are in swing prison completely. When, during emotion, you generate an intention, any intention, from a surface level of the mind, you only have access to the surface level of intelligence of the body. But the way the whole thing is set up, when you generate an intention from a quieter, softer level of the mind, you have no choice but to access the deeper level of intelligence of the body. So when someone plays really well, doesn't matter how you get here, as long as you get there, you have access to the deeper level of intelligence of the body. When that's, I call it, I'll tell you what it's like, okay? Jake Knapp, and I think in the Cognizant, okay, shoots 59. So what, he's 12 under. In the next 3 rounds, he only goes 3 under. What? So he ends up, 11th or 15th. So when he shot a 59, he was down here. When he shot 1 over in the next 3 rounds, he was up here. So, and here's the interesting thing, Paul. It doesn't matter what you're thinking. That doesn't determine from where the thought is generated from. Doesn't matter what you're thinking, because that doesn't determine from where the thought is generated. Because if it did, a swing thought that worked 1 time would work 1,000 times.
Yes.
So here's how it works, okay? You get a new swing thought. You haven't thought about it for, 3 months or whatever. Oh, it's really working, baby. Man, my odd tempo, strike, positions, this is fantastic. So you use it a little bit, and then you start off, you're generating it from here, and then you use it a little bit, it goes up here, and it doesn't work. So what do you have to do? You got to start over. Oh, yeah, I haven't thought about that for a while. Then it has X amount of time for a shelf life. Then it doesn't work. What are you doing? Don't you understand how fluid motion is produced? Obviously not. And it's not what you're thinking. Let this one sink in, Paul. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Ready?
I'm ready.
It's not what you're thinking. It's how you're thinking it. It's from what level of the mind the thought was generated from.
And could one go as far to then saying how it is you're thinking is analogous to the feeling state from which the thought arose?
Could be, but not necessarily.
How would you
Because
elaborate?
you could. Here's the thing: how many times has someone just striped it on the range? They go to the course. They can't find the fairway. You know what they say? The heck with this. I don't care. So they go into a lousy mood. All of a sudden, they start striping again. So it doesn't have to do, though. It's good to have a good feeling or whatever. But you can have a great feeling and stink the whole thing up. Okay, because you're generating it from here with a good feeling. Okay, you're trying to boil water at 200 degrees. Good luck.
Well said. Yeah, that's a great distinction between the two. I love that. So I'm curious. We come to this place, like again, I'm going to use my vernacular here, quiet mind, allowing us to access the depth of the mind body connection, the next level depth of intelligence that allows things to flow as they are designed to.
Beautiful.
Now, we're going to go away from golf for a minute. And my listeners know I'm a big believer golf is a mirror, a reflection of life, a personal and professional development tool. How can we use the lessons we've just learned from what you just shared? How do they apply beyond golf into everyday life, businesses, relationships? How does that serve us?
The quality of your silence will determine the quality of your thinking.
Oh, that's
So, okay. So those who are very successful in whatever field have access to deeper levels of silence in their mind. And deeper levels of silence means more intelligent thinking. Okay? When the mind is very active or whatever, you're not thinking that intelligent. You're not putting all the ramifications of, whatever decision you're trying to make. So it's a one-to-one correspondence. Now, the quality of your physiology will determine the quality of your consciousness. The quality of your physiology will determine the quality of your consciousness. If you're stressed, if you're anxious, if you're mad, if you're rebellious, well, your thinking is not going to be very profound. That's why I recommend, when I think it's appropriate, and I just had 2 golfers start, to learn transcendental meditation. Absolutely essential. Because what you're going to do with that is you're going to start culturing the mind to be familiar with more silent aspects of its own nature. So you can take that silence. And I'll tell you, what separates golfers on the PGA Tour has nothing to do with their short game or their swing or their distance. It has to do with the quality of silence during their motion. That the Scotties and the Rorys, during that 1.5 seconds, they are swimming on the bottom of the ocean. And the other players that are in the middle or just on the outer barriers, they're up here during the motion. Okay, Rory's down here, Scotty's down here. But during those 40 majors, Rory was up here. It doesn't matter what you did on the last shot. These are science. This is, if you're trying to boil water at 200 degrees and you're frustrated, okay, at least understand why the water isn't boiling.
What do we do during a round? We've started well. We're down where we're supposed to be, into the depths of our highest intelligence, and we start to rise up during the round. How do we get ourselves back on track?
It's a good question, okay? I would say the first thing you should go back to is the money is in the bank. Don't hit the panic button. I'm violating the rules of the bank here. So why am I surprised I just hit something, into the deep rough? So what you need to start doing is you need to start doing less because you're doing too much, okay? You're doing too much. There's too much going on. So when I teach someone, my program is I keep taking away what's not necessary. And what you think is necessary versus what is necessary to play consistent golf, it's a huge gap. So I would say start walking slower because probably you're walking too fast. Remember the money's in the bank. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. And quiet down. Why are you so hyped up? That's not going to help at all. That's what I would recommend.
Fantastic.
And of course, if they have my program, they got all 6 shooters loaded.
We can keep that one a secret in your program and in the book. Don't worry.
Here's the thing. We'd have to do a 3-hour. We'd have to literally 3 or 4 hours for me to go through all the things that I give a golfer. But I gave you, and I don't mind doing it, but it's not going to happen, obviously. I gave you one of the foundations. The foundation is how to establish that quality of space before you initiate the motion. Everything else I do is built on that. So you got the pièce de résistance of the program.
I love that. And clarify one concept for us, Steven. I want to make sure I understood it correctly as well as the listeners too. So I'll speak on their behalf.
Yeah.
Violation of the rules of the bank. Clarify or share that one more time for us. I want to make sure I fully understand it.
The rules of the bank have to do with the neurophysiological process.
Okay.
That moves that signal or that prevents moving that signal to the motor system. So the rules of the bank, well, there are 2 major feedback loops occurring during a golf swing, okay? Between the basal ganglia, which stores muscle memory, the cerebellum, which thinks the swing, and the motor cortex, which communicates with the body to produce a swing. They're exchanging information at lightning speeds. Where's the club? Access to muscle memory, self-correct. If one of those loops are broken, that's the major violation of the rules of the bank. There's only one way, Paul, that loop can be broken. One of those 2 loops is that if wholeness is broken, something is pulsating and overshadowing something else, probably before the swing, and especially during the swing. That's the main rule of the bank.
Brilliant. That makes sense. So let me ask you this then.
Yeah.
And you've kind of alluded to it, but I think it's really valuable to hear a concise answer. If golf instruction then were completely reimagined from the ground up, how would you teach golfers differently from day one?
This is a beautiful thing. This is a beautiful question. Because, solid mechanics don't fall from the sky. You got to teach somebody that. Mm-hmm. You have to teach somebody. So the question is, how can you go in there and do surgery and teach someone the mechanics and still have wholeness and not violate the rules of the bank? Right? That's your question. Yeah. Right from day one. You have to teach them how to take the club back, where to set it, how to bring it forward, on the downswing. There's a way to teach somebody where you don't violate the rules of the bank. You have a threshold level of wholeness, yet you are asking them to do specific things. Right?
Okay.
You understand that?
Mm-hmm.
That's for another conversation.
Okay. So that begs the follow-up question. What is the most common mistake you see? Maybe the one that grinds your gears most when teaching professionals and coaches are working with beginners or those learning the golf swing early on.
They emphasize one thing and they forget the other. They forget that it's a symphony, okay? They forget it's a symphony. So they teach someone how to get the club back or how to bring it, how to downswing, whatever. And they don't realize that just because they took it back the way I wanted them to take it back doesn't mean the dominoes are all going to fall in a row. Because the most important thing in a golf swing is timing. It's a sequence of movements working together. And if you emphasize one part of that sequence without paying its due respect to the other parts of the sequence, which means you're breaking wholeness, it's a slow boat to China, Paul. Very slow.
How does, now that you mentioned that, there's the timing, how does consistency come into all of this? The replication.
Well,
Consistent.
You can't play good golf unless you're consistent.
Mm-hmm.
You can't be consistent unless you experience a wholeness.
Yeah.
It's impossible. You can't. It's like trying to boil water at 200 degrees. It's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So consistency, what consistency means let's talk about someone who has a repeatable swing, is practicing and culturing that state of wholeness and abstraction where you're not going to violate the rules of the bank.
Okay.
That's it. And you don't practice a swing. Why are you practicing the swing? The money's in the bank. You think you're going to get better? Just, hitting 57 irons. Okay. 170 yards. Oh, I got it. Then you take it to the course and, you've used such concrete criteria, and the mind is weakened when it uses concrete criteria, this report card mentality that people have on the range. And the mind is strengthened when it's abstract. But you just hit 1,000 balls this week, giving yourself a pat on the back because you hit so many good 7 irons, and you are not giving unto Caesar what is due unto Caesar. And that's the origin. That's the motherboard of this way.
With that said, because now I feel like I'm being called out and I love it. You're speaking directly to me. What's the upgrade that our listeners, or the vast majority of them, need to make to their practice routines?
Okay. The first thing they have to, I'm not going to give out the tip of the month here. Okay. This is not just try this. It's not going to work like that. You have to build a building if you're going to put a foundation. So I suggest they go on Amazon and they buy my book, Simplicity. It's $15. It gives out the whole program. And then they can do it in a systematic way, because these tips of the month, no, just do this and you'll be okay. Come on. Seriously, really? It doesn't work like that. So build a foundation, and the book will give you the foundation. The next step would be to buy my videos on my website, StevenYellin.com. Listen to what other pros and other teachers say about the program. And if you really want to go to the next level, you get on a plane and fly down to Vero Beach, and let me spend a day or two with you, and your golf game will be changed forever. You too, Paul. That applies to you. You're in Tampa.
Hours away, I know. Oh, trust me, the wheels are spinning and turning. How we can make this happen?
And then we can record.
Go ahead.
Yeah, we can record it on the range. Okay, we'll do a whole little interview on the range, watching you swing, and we do it before and after. You can use an iPhone for that. You don't have to be in a studio.
Not at all. Yeah. Brilliant. And for those of you listening, I'll link everything Steven shared down below, the website, the book. Go get the book. Absolutely get the book. Like I alluded to earlier, the book is on its way, if it's not already waiting outside my door. Steven, this has exceeded my expectations. I'm excited to go read the transcript and listen to this multiple times. Is there a place you recommend, aside from your website, that listeners can go to just continue to learn from you? Are you active on social media?
Yeah, they can. I post a lot of good tips about the program on my Facebook page, Steven Yellin, and on Instagram, Steven Yellin. And they can also listen to some podcasts. I've done a few of these. They can download it. But, the essence of what I talk about is in this podcast. They're not going to get any really different information. It's just maybe listening to different questions.
I'm going to get you out of here on this question. This is one of my favorites to ask. I find myself asking my guests quite often. There is a gigantic billboard on the middle of a golf course that can be seen clear as day from every single hole. What message are you writing on that billboard?
2 words. You ready?
I'm ready.
Do less. Do less.
Do less. Steven, thank you so much for joining us. Absolutely phenomenal.
This was a good one. I enjoyed it. It's my first podcast in my car. Okay.
Well, you handled it well. You had a good atmosphere.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Stay in touch. Send me the link, Paul.
I will. And for those of you listening, thank you for tuning into another episode. I know you found immense value. So do myself, Steven, a favor. Go buy his book. Go connect with him on social media and share this episode with a fellow golfer so that both of you can continue to play better and shoot lower scores. And if you haven't done so already, it takes 30 seconds to leave a genuine rating and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you're listening. This helps support the show and allows me the opportunity to bring on rock star guests just like Steven to continue helping you play better golf. Thank you so much for listening. Have a phenomenal rest of your week. Hit them straight this weekend, and we'll catch you in the next episode.